Welcome to the congregation of Yahweh. We're here on Yahweh's Sabbath day, coming into the spring feast season, and a lot of people bypass the spring feast and actually get involved in some of the other holidays that aren't in the biblical records, things that have crept into the body. But today the message is entitled Passover Is for Who? And I want to discuss a few scriptures about if Passover and the spring feasts, unleavened bread, are they actually relevant? If they are, who should be keeping them, and what is the significance of these feasts and some of the symbolism involved. A little update. I've brought this up numerous times in the past year or so, and this is just from reading other people's research and verifying some things. But I've talked about the blood red moons, the tetrads. Well, this April the 15th is going to be the first of the eclipse, the blood red moon eclipse, and I went to NASA and confirmed the dates on these 4 blood red moons. It's only going to be visible for about a little over an hour, but apparently the light from the sun is everything's going to line up, and the light from the sun will be directly on the moon and make it shine a real bright red. If I get that. If I'm correct on that. But what I found the other day, which I haven't confirmed yet, is there's actually going to be 2 more in 2016. So it's going to be a total of 6 blood red moons in 3 years. And I'm not sure about 16, but in 14 this year and next year, it'll be during Passover and Tabernacles. And then on the first day of the Hebraic month in first day of the Hebraic year in 2015 and 16, there'll be a full solar eclipse. And then on Feast of Trumpets 2016, there'll be a partial solar eclipse. But a lot of people are real excited about this, and I'm not a date setter or anything, but I do believe that these things are exciting and something to keep your eye on. Yes, sir.
Does that give you the actual date?
Oh yeah, you can. They've got it calculated to the date and the hour on the NASA website. And America, our continent, will be the first to see this first moon. Some of the world won't even get to see this one. But we'll be the first to see this one, and I think the next one, and then after that, over in Israel, they'll see the 3rd and 4th of 2015. But it's pretty exciting. Some people are, they point to Joel, the moon should be turned to blood, and the sun should not give its light before the day of Yahweh. And some people, think that there might be something to that. I personally, I don't set dates like that, but I do keep my eye on them because they are there for signs and for seasons, for days and for years. And if you go back in history, when you can go on NASA and find out when these things have happened, and you'll find significant events happening with Israel. Things like exciting things happening with them. Specifically, one is when Israel became a nation again. It happened. So that was kind of exciting. But anyway, continue on. Let's go over here to Exodus chapter 12. And this is the beginning of the feast being designated to Israel, starting in verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. And this, just on what we've read so far, we know when the new year is. Verse 3, Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if a household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the houses wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire his head and with his legs and with the purtenance thereof. And you shall not let nothing of it remain until the morning. And that which remains of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus shall you eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the mighty ones of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am Yahweh. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. So based off of this verse, we know that a group of people are supposed to be keeping this as an ordinance forever. Yep. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eat leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. So from this verse we see that they are literally supposed to remove the leaven from their houses. They are to partake in this. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the 7th day there shall be an holy convocation. To you no manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat. That only may be done of you. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For in this same day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses, for whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. Now I'm going to hold my finger here, but I'm going to flip over to Luke chapter 22, and we see that this service is still going on in the days of the Messiah. Chapter 22, starting in verse 15. Actually, I'm sorry, let's back it up to verse 7. 22 and 7 in the book of Luke. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. And he sent Peter and John, saying, Go and prepare us the Passover, that we may eat. So that gives us the context of what is going on. They are going to prepare the Passover so that they may eat. And they said unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare? And he said unto them, Behold, when you are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entered in. And you shall say unto the good man of the house, The master saith unto thee, Where is the guest chamber where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he shall show you a large upper room furnished. There make ready. And they went and found as he had said unto them, and they made ready the Passover. And when the hour was come, he sat down, and the 12 apostles with him. And he said unto them, With desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I say unto you, I will not any more eat thereof until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of Yahweh. That verse always comes to mind when I hear somebody say, oh, that was fulfilled. Anytime you talk about a commandment, a Sabbath, a dietary law, that was fulfilled. But here, the first spring feast out of the Messiah's own mouth says it won't be fulfilled until he eats it in the kingdom. And he took the cup and gave thanks and said, take this and divide it amongst yourselves. For I say unto you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of Yahweh shall come. And he took bread and gave thanks and brake it and gave unto them, saying, this is my body, which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me. Likewise also the cup after supper, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood, which is shed for you. Now many say that the reason they're keeping this, the reason the Messiah kept it, is because they were Jewish. And these things were given to Israel, and some actually go as far as to say that Israel has been replaced by the church through a Messiah that started a new religion. And he started the church, and everything prior to the book of Matthew is obsolete, done away with, and Israel pretty much doesn't exist except for a few Jews in the land. Well, and some actually like to do away with Israel altogether. Let's go over here to Jeremiah in chapter 31, and we'll see if Yahweh has done away with his people. In verse 31, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith Yahweh. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know Yahweh, for they shall all know me from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yahweh, for I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. There's a myriad of people out there that claim they're New Covenant, New Testament Christians.
Right.
But this is the only reference to the New Covenant in the Scriptures, in the Tanakh, and it says it's with Israel, and that New Covenant is to put His Torah in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts. So a New Covenant person is of Israel and has the Torah written in their hearts. Continue on in verse 35. Thus saith Yahweh, which gives the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divides the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yahweh of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith Yahweh, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. And he's given us an illustration that Israel will never cease from being a nation. Thus saith Yahweh, if heaven above can be measured, it can't, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, it can't, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith Yahweh. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. So from these scriptures we read so far, the new covenant is him putting his Torah inside of his people, and he will never cause them to cease from being a nation. Israel will always be here. So as long as Israel exists, we know somebody's supposed to be feast keeping. So how does that relationship fit in with the mainstream church? All throughout the scriptures, we see there's neither Jew nor Greek, bond nor free, male nor female. We're all one in Messiah. Well, if we're all one and Israel's supposed to be keeping the feast, where does that leave the mainstream church who considers the first part of the book obsolete? If we're all one, we're supposed to be of the same mind, the same doctrine. How can one group be obedient and the other group be disobedient? Something doesn't line up. But for the sake of time, we'll just touch on a few things. After the sin of Solomon, Israel divided into two camps. The northern house of Israel, the southern house of Judah. In the book of Hosea chapter 1, it says, Israel will receive compassion. Judah will receive compassion, and Israel will not. He's talking about what's going to happen to these two groups of people. And it says that Israel will become not my people, and that they would be scattered to every nation. Now this is other scriptures tied together here. That they would be scattered to every nation under heaven. That they would serve pagan deities. But in the lands and the tongues and the nations in which they were scattered, they would find him when they sought him out. When they seeked and searched for them with all of their hearts, they would find him. They would come to their senses. And that is what's going on today through the Messiah. He's inviting all nations, and we see that in the New Testament, but it's easily overlooked. What the mainstream wants us to think is that all nations were invited in to become this new church, this new empire. But no, all nations were invited to come into the household of Israel and fellowship with Israel and repent. And all throughout the scriptures, repent has meant the same thing. Now, if you go out there on some of the religious circles today, repent means something totally different. But from Noah, the preacher of righteousness, all throughout the prophets, repent. Turn to Yahweh. Obey and seek forgiveness. John the Baptist, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and show fruits worthy of righteousness. The Messiah, repent and obey. All the disciples, repent and obey. And all meant the same thing. Turn to this. Come back to this. So after the calling of the nations through the Messiah, he's inviting all to come in and to be one with the house of Israel, and that is who should be keeping these feasts. And let's go to a few verses here. Ephesians chapter 2 kind of hits on that. Starting in verse 11, wherefore remember that you, being in times past Gentiles in the flesh. There's also a verse in Corinthians, I believe it's in 12, but I won't go there. It says that you used to be Gentiles, and that you were called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands, that at that time you were without the Messiah. That means when you were of the nations, the Gentiles, you were without the Messiah. You were aliens from the commonwealth, that means citizenship, of Israel, and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without Elohim in the world. But now, in Messiah Yeshua, you who were sometimes far off are made nigh by the blood of Messiah. For he is our peace, who hath made both one, and hath broken down the middle wall of partition between us, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, For to make in himself of the twain two into one new man, so making peace. Now some numerous commentaries and people will actually tell us in verse 15 that was the doing away with, the annulling of the law of Moses, so that everybody could be one and get along. He had to do away with Yahweh's law so we could all be one people. But what's actually going on here, remember when Peter said, you know it is unlawful for me, being a Jew, to come in and fellowship with those of the nations? But Yahweh showed me that I should call no man unclean, from that vision that he just had. That's back in Acts chapter 10. So these man-made laws that separated the Jew and the Gentile were done away with in the Messiah, so that there could be neither Jew nor Greek, bond nor free, male nor female, all one, the seed of Abraham and heirs according to the promise. Continue on in verse 16, and that he might reconcile both groups unto Elohim in one body by the stake, having slain the enmity thereby, and came and preached peace to you which were afar off, and to them that were nigh. And some actually tie that in with those that were scattered were the ones far off, and those that remained were the ones near. For through him we both have access by one Spirit unto the Father. Now therefore you are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of Elohim. And I know this is kind of repetitious, but this theme is all throughout Scriptures. The two flocks, the two sticks, the two trees, the two nations, all coming together into one, is all explained in commentary in the Messianic Scriptures. It's all right there, but it's so easily overlooked. It's not them and us, or two separate groups, two religions with two different doctrines. It's one people that's had the Word from the beginning of the book, and He doesn't change it. Now, yes, there's some things that don't apply. They don't apply. No. We don't physically go to the Levitical priesthood, to the temple, and perform sacrifices. He is the priest. He's in the temple. He is the sacrifice. And there's nothing in the Scriptures that are too hard that He asks us to do. Deuteronomy 30 says it's not hard. It's not hard. I believe that's Deuteronomy 30 verse 11. It's not hard. I'm not asking you to do anything you can't do. Let's go back to Exodus chapter 12 again. And what verse did we leave off in 12? Let's start with, verse 19. 7 days there shall be no leaven found in your houses, for whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. Anytime I see that word stranger about obedience, I go back to Ephesians. He said, you're no more strangers. And in several places in the Torah, it says when a stranger comes in and obeys, he will be as one native born in the land, and there will be no difference between you and him. He'll be just like you because he chose to obey. And in Leviticus, it says that is a law forever. It is a law forever that a stranger that comes in to obey will be just like you. You shall eat nothing leavened in all your habitations. You shall eat unleavened bread. And throughout the Messianic Scriptures, we see leaven symbolized as hypocrisy, sin, false doctrine, and rebellion. And symbolically, when we remove the leaven, literally remove it from our house, it shows us how hard it is to investigate to get all the leaven out. And sometimes the body might crave a little leaven. Man, I wish I had a big piece of bread or something. I don't. And I've actually seen some churches actually have a big loaf of leavened bread during this season. So literally, it is removed from the house upon your departure from Egypt. And if we truly want to leave Egypt, That's actually what we got to get out. We've got to get the rebellion, the false doctrine, and the hypocrisy out of our lives to truly leave Egypt and head for the Red Sea, which is baptism. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood upon the lintel and the two side posts, Yahweh will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you. And you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. There it is again. Observe it forever. And it shall come to pass, when you be come to the land which Yahweh will give you, according as he hath promised, that you shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, what mean you by this service? That you shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed the head and worshipped. And the children of Israel went away and did as Yahweh had commanded Moses and Aaron. So did they. It came to pass that at midnight Yahweh smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Moses rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians, that there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, rise up and get you forth from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go serve Yahweh as you have said. Also take your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people, that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we be all dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. For the sake of time, let me skip over to verse 40. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the self same day, it came to pass that all the hosts of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh, for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be observed for all the children of Israel in their generations. Over and over we see that this is something to be preserved and kept. Now, yes, we can observe Passover and unleavened and remember this miraculous delivery. We can remember Israel being delivered from the slavery of Egypt. But we can also see foreshadowed the bondage that we were once in. I know, speaking personally, I was in bondage to myself and my own stupid decisions. I was in bondage to drugs and a lifestyle that was destroying me. And something happened. I said, I surrender, and something miraculous took place. And He manifested His love towards me. I understood that love, and it gave me a desire and a heart to strive to live right and live for Him. And that was the miracle. That was my deliverance from Egypt. That was me fleeing from Pharaoh and his armies. And once I understood the surrender part and getting rid of the leaven part, now I didn't understand the significance of the leaven then, but now I see that I had to get the leaven out of my life, and I had a desire to flee to the sea of baptism. And I wanted to leave that old life of bondage and Pharaoh behind in the water, and I wanted to come up new. And from me coming out of the water, I traveled, spiritually speaking, to the mountain, and He manifested His ways, His Torah to me. And from me getting baptized and understanding His ways was going through the desert, through the trials. So anyway, we see that this is to be done. Yes?
I just wanted to ask, they weren't supposed to go out of the door until morning. So did they break that by going out to see the Pharaoh that night, or did they wait?
No, they waited, and then they departed.
Okay.
Yeah. So in verse 43, and Yahweh said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof, but every man's servant that is bought for money. When thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth aught of it, of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall you break a bone thereof. All of the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land. That's amazing. When he keeps it, he will be as one that was born there. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One law shall be unto him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourns among you. Thus did all the children of Israel, as Yahweh commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. And I won't get into it right now, but 1 Corinthians chapter 5 and 1 Corinthians chapter 11 discuss partaking with the bread and the wine, the examination of yourself, the examination of your congregation. And he said, let us keep the feast. So we know that Israel is still here. Israel is still to keep the feast. And we'll see y'all there at this feast. Y'all bless.
With us.